Well, it's been about, I don't know, 20 hours since the last report. There's been more scratching at the airlock door, and I think hold number 15, there's something moving around in there. Maybe it's one of the plants. The plants seem to have developed a degree of intelligence since the comet passed by. I'll have to check it, but to be perfectly honest, I'm a bit loath to do so. Still, I think I'm the only one left alive on board at the moment, so perhaps I better get my axe and go down to the hold, see what's behind the door. If I survive, I'll come back and tell you all about it. Back again. So to pass the time, I've been reading. I know it sounds strange, doesn't it? Reading. He needs to read. Watch the screen. We've been watching the screen for over a century now. But I thought I'd return to a story that I'd read when I was very young. It's written by a guy called Ellison. Ellison. That's a strange name, isn't it? Anyway, he wrote a story called The Beast That Shouted Love at the Heart of the World. And in that story, you can find this passage. And it seems to sum up where we are at the moment, or where I am at the moment. It goes like this. Crosswind, through interstices of thought called time, through reflective images called space, another then, another now. This place, over there. Beyond concepts, the transmogrification of simplicity, finally labelled if. 14 more steps sidewise, but later, much, much later. There in that ultimate centre, with everything radiating outward, becoming infinitely more complex, the enigma of symmetry, harmony, apportionment singing with fine-tuned order in this place, where it all began, begins, will always begin, the centre, Crosswind. Or 100 million years in the future, and 100 million parsecs beyond the farthest edge of measurable space. And parallax war pages beyond counting across the universes of parallel existences. Finally, an infinitude of mind-triggered leaps beyond human thought. There, Crosswind. I think that's where we find ourselves now. At least, that's where I find myself. Did you hear that? I'm sure I heard something. There's not much to listen to here, except for me, listening back to these old recordings. There was something, wasn't there? I've got to check. If I find something, or if it finds me, well, you'll be the first, or the last, to know. Speaking of literature, of science fiction, it comes as a surprise, I suppose, to many who indulge in this particular passion, that there's very little science in science fiction. It seems absurd, really, but that's the case. Very few science fiction stories, very little science fiction literature, and of course, no science fiction cinema has anything to do with science. Or if it does, it's tangential, it serves the function of the MacGuffin. It's a very ancient Earth, scientist. Was he a scientist? Hitchcock. Alf Hitchcock. He had this experimental notion that we needed something that'll drag us through our stories, through our narratives, through our endless chattering back and forth. He called it a MacGuffin. It was there to lead us astray. You'd think that science fiction was there for the opposite effect, to lead us to some sort of truth or understanding. And in a way, much of it does this job, but not in a scientific way, in a metaphysical way. Before the advent of what is called by some genre science fiction, that is, the science fiction that developed and grew from the 1930s onwards in a very specific place, America, back on old Earth. Well, before that, before the development of genre science fiction, before the development of a particular cache of iconography, there was stories of travel to other worlds, fantastic journeys. Sort of like the opposite of what I'm going through. I'm going through a non-fantastic journey. At least I don't think it's fantastic. I don't know what you think, or wherever you are, whoever's going to read this. Still, the literature of the 18th century concerned, not primarily, but tangentially, sometimes, with journeys to other planets, with the discovery of fantastic species, had a sort of metaphysical colour to it, a sort of metaphysical questing. And that's what we find in science fiction, at least the best of science fiction. And of course, we don't find that at all in the movies. The movies, that's what we used to call them, movies. I'm not doing much moving. I'm stuck here. Stuck here in the, well, it used to be the command center. And now there is no command center. Perhaps there never was. Perhaps we were always adrift at sea, in the plasma seas, ignited by the cosmic dust. Anyway, that's poetic, not metaphysical. Not much of that either. Well, that's it for me. For the moment, just one of my thoughts on this endless, seemingly endless, may as well be endless, voyage into the depths of space. Bye for now. Hello again. You'll have to forgive me, but I'm not accustomed to suffering from space madness. I've heard stories about it, of course. I was unsure of the symptoms until I looked it up in the cyclopedia. According to the cyclopedia, the onboard cyclopedia, one of the first victims of space madness was Captain Wren. You've all heard of Captain Wren, of course, and his first officer, Lieutenant Stimpy, both of whom came to an inglorious end in Andromeda. Still, the story is well known to all of you, I suppose. Space history is, of course, something that we all learn in school and watch on the vid screens. The symptoms are quite severe at times. They include talking to yourself and sending messages into the void. Now, I would have thought that, wouldn't you? I would have thought that was part and parcel of being a human being. Talking to yourself, talking to others, which amounts to the same, and throwing yourself into the void. I think that's what it means when you get out of bed in the morning. Well, I've got my postal round to accomplish. I don't know why I do it really, but it brings some sort of order to my life. I mean, everybody on the ship's dead. They don't really need their vid messages from family, relatives, enemies. Still, as I say, it brings some degree of comfort to me and perhaps to the dead, knowing that there are messages waiting for them, no matter where they are, no matter when they are, or how they are. How am I? I'm quite good, thank you. Back shortly. When the Astronaut 519 asteroid passed by, little did we know that it was carrying organisms, as it had throughout the universe, perhaps seeding life throughout the galaxies. Perhaps we're the origin of the original passing of Astronaut 519. This is beyond my ken, really. It's an old word. It's an old word in a number of languages. Ken, to know. It strikes me as a bit ironic, really, seeing as I know very little at this point. I'm not sure where we're heading. But I do know that this machine, this machinery, this ship that we have constructed is a ship that's taken many voyages in the past. Stories about sailing the seas are at the origins of many of our cultures, certainly my culture, whatever that is. Odysseus on the seas. Good old Odysseus. Was he the one with one eye? I don't remember. No, he had two eyes, but one was squinted like this. Popeye. Wasn't he he was a very famous sailor. Or was he an astronaut? Popeye the astronaut? Rings a bell. It's not a very loud bell. Anyway, I suppose I better get something to eat before I fade away into the darkness. Back shortly. Excuse me, I think I nodded off for a moment. Greeting listeners from the other side of the known universe. This is me reporting in. It's perhaps my final report. Things haven't gone as well as I'd hoped. Not that I hoped for very much. But, well, there was a moment of excitement. I'll tell you about it. I think I was talking about the sounds. The sounds that seemed to be coming from the lower hold, one of the lower holds. I isolated it. Hold number 3. I heard these strangest sounds, echoing down those corridors. I discovered that they were being made by 2 gigantic rats mating. Unfortunately, the bigger of the 2 giant rats, when it saw me observing them, just told me to fuck off. Which is a bit of a pity, really, because I would have been glad of some company up here in the command center. Still, I guess I better leave them to it. Of course, on the other hand, as I was passing by hold number 5, I saw something that I don't really want to see again. So if I have to walk down there, I've come this time with my trusty blaster, which I'm hoping I don't have to use because I may blow a hole in the side of the ship. Anyway, things are progressing. I've just been checking the charts, and it looks like we've passed through the photon ring. Yes, we've passed through the photon ring, heading on now through the black hole shadow, which means it won't be very long, not very long at all, before we pass into the event horizon. I say we, but I have no idea if anybody is alive on the ship. I'm not sure that I'm alive on this ship. Being isolated in this strange dark space doesn't strike me as being living. Still, I'm not complaining. Let me just check something here on the panel. Yes? I'm listening. Speak. Yes, I'm here. I'm here. Speak. I can't quite understand you. No, I don't talk binary or tertiary or any number greater than nothing. Well, ships in the night, as they say, passing by. I may just try and contact them again. Didn't work. I'll try it again. Well, I suppose it's just me, you, and the silence that surrounds us, really. This is my last message, thrown out into the void. I hope we're all going to have fun in the future. Bye for now.